one of those, I suppose, applications that we can spend an awful lot of time in. It's probably our one product that we will spend the vast proportion of our time in. When it comes to the whole Office suite, it's really where we tend to live and breathe, because it's our main communication and sort of collaboration. Although there's often not a lot of collaboration when we're dealing with Outlook, because it can be very hierarchical, so the structure of it can be a little different. Now, when we're kicking off and getting started in something like Outlook, the interface for Office 2016, you will note the look and feel of it is a little different in terms of the structure of it and the way it's set up. I would highly recommend leaving it as it is for a while to get used to it. There is a very good reason that Microsoft actually changed the interface, and that's usually because of the fact that it's usually a lot quicker. They've done lots of research, they have a lot of people that are feeding back into it, they try and make sure that you've got the latest and greatest and the ways to be able to navigate. So it might take you a little bit of time to potentially get used to it. After around a week or so, you will find that it will actually work for you. Some of the features that you're going to see that's going to come up. We don't have a folder list view from much earlier years. It's actually kind of a bit of a condensed view, and we have our icons running across the bottom to be able to work with. So it goes Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to be able to navigate around. So if I go Control 2, it would actually jump me over to my calendar. Control 1 would bring me back into my mail. So I can take my hand off the mouse and go Control 3, and I'm now in my people, Control 2, calendar, Control 1 into my mailbox. A good way to be able to navigate around. In terms of the interface, if I do a right click on my calendar, I can actually open it up in a new window. So that means I've got two windows open so that I can see both my calendar and my mailbox at the same time effectively if I wish to on my screens. Now, if I go and close down based on 1, 2, 3, so if I close my mailbox, then my calendar, the next time I go and open up Outlook, it will remember the windows that you've had open and will automatically open them back up again for you. But if I close my calendar, then my inbox, it will only open my inbox up in future. So I have to kind of do it to the opposite of whatever it is you've got down here, should you wish them to open up again. So with my ribbon look and feel up the top, you will notice that there are some more features and functionality that's actually come in as part of the new view. So the ribbon running across the top, we've got things like quick steps which have come into play. You will see different features that might drop in around the place depending on, what it actually is. With the view and the look and feel of the new view, you'll notice you've got these little icons, kind of blue look and feel. This means, is it red or unread? With this view, it means I can very quickly tick on and off and mark it as read and unread without having to do the keyboard shortcuts, which is, Control U in terms of unread or Control Q to mark it as read. The easy way to have a look at those keyboard shortcuts, if you just hover over some of the commands that are actually up on the ribbon, it will give you, if there is one, a keyboard shortcut to be able to mark unread and read. Okay? So you'll find they're all over the place. With my interface, up the top, you can customize your quick access toolbar to be able to include different features and functionalities, such as Save As, to make it a little bit easier for yourself. You'll see there are other ones. Generally, I'm not a big fan of Reply All. We spend a lot of time replying to all, rather than potentially just a couple of people that need to be on there. Okay? Some of our keyboard shortcuts for replies, Control R, Control Shift R, and Control F for forward. It's not find. If you want to do your keyboard shortcut for find, it's actually Control Shift F will bring up your find. But you will have your find running across the top here, and we'll delve into it a little bit more. When it comes to your backstage view, you're going to find your out of office here. So you can kind of set off your out of office and what replies you actually want. There are different features and functionalities that come in as part of managing rules and alerts. But those managing rules and alerts, you've also got the rules up here on the ribbon, and you've got it on a right click and managing the rules through the right click. There are some extra features and functionalities that have come in now to make it a little bit easier, including stuff like your quick steps, which we will go through in a moment up the top, which weren't there previously. So keep an eye out. You might find that there's something, hover over it. Generally, it will give you an explanation as to what it is. For example, like you're ignoring your conversations. It will tell you that, and keyboard shortcuts. So on the File tab, when we start to work our way through, we've got our Open and Export as part of our navigation, Saving As, and then we've got our Print. Now, the print will look different depending on what screen you're on. If you're in your calendar, you're going to have a different look and feel for your print than what you do if you're on your mailbox. In your options, I would highly recommend here, go and have a look at what your different options are. Like, get to know your options, basically. You'll see that there are different features and functionalities turned on. For example, your username can often go against information, so if it's not correct, go correct it. You do have live preview in the mini toolbar. Underneath Mail, go and turn on. By default, that is off. Go and turn it on. It's one of the first things I actually recommend, so that when you go and send an email, it should be. I agree. It absolutely should be the default. Go and turn it on. It's a really good one to have on. When a new message arrives, personally, I turn off the player sound, the show an icon in the taskbar. These are the things I turn off. The other thing that I will turn off is I'll go right click on my task over in the bottom right hand side, my notification center. I will go in and hide things like show new email desktop alerts and show Microsoft Exchange messages. These are the things I turn off because I don't want notifications coming up. If I'm working on an Excel document, for example, if I receive a notification in the bottom right hand corner, it's basically saying, go work by my priority, whoever that person is that's just sent you an email. Yeah. So what it does is it doesn't distract you. It takes you a good 26 minutes to actually get yourself back on track when you've had a distraction. So it takes quite a while. So I say turn off a lot of those notifications and alerts and create rules instead around the different people or the different information you want it to play a sound or have a message come through. Okay. Another one that I will often say is preface the comments with, and it might just be, instead of Indiana Jones, I might just go preface the IG when replying, include, original text, when forwarding. This one here, if I go preface the comments, it means that when I reply to an email, for example, so say I come up here and I go reply, and I'll come down here and I'll go, received, and I go, what time did you receive? You'll see that it's actually put my notification against that. If I came down a little further and I go, hi, you'll see that was black text and it's turned it blue. So it will actually tell you kind of who's written what and where did they actually write it. Okay? And we'll come back to some of that in future. Let's go back into our options and have a little bit more of a look through. This has been set up based on school, mum potentially working only till 2:30. If you make that adjustment and you're available, then it actually shows on the exchange your availability, and it looks a little bit more relevant when someone's trying to book your time. So if you don't work on a Monday, it will come up as greyed out for them, and it helps them out a little bit more. Okay. Can they propose times for meetings, change the permission for free busy? Sometimes you might want to go, instead of free busy, give them also the transparency to be able to see subject and location, because if they know the subject and location, you're less inclined to receive calendar invites that are going to clash, because they know what the priorities are for the business. So I would say take up that free busy information to make it a little bit higher. Another really good one is in Sydney, show a second time zone, something like Perth, for example, and make sure that the weather for the calendar is set properly to Celsius instead of Fahrenheit. So that looks a little bit like, there we go, what have I done? Into the date occurs before the, there we go, 5:30, Monday, 5:30 p.m. That's why it's getting cranky with me. Try that again. Okay, so on my calendar, you'll see I've now got 2 time zones. Yeah, to be able to work with. It's certainly very valuable. Right, let's have a look then at our mailbox in terms of working with our mailbox. So in here, we can then start to see within this one, when I want to reply, I'm replying in line. Now, with the look and feel of my mailbox, running down the middle, we did the whole turn it on and off in terms of read and unread. We've got all these quick features and functionalities, as in deleting, setting a flag. Now, if I extend out that view, I've still got it. However, if I start to change the view around, I'm not going to have it anymore. So there are some features that aren't going to show up depending on how you structure your view. When you do a reply, what's going to happen is you reply in line. So it's included kind of in the mailbox. It's not popping it out. You can keep an eye out on your mailbox as you're typing up a lengthy email, for example. If I'm looking at the functionality, so I've now got a Compose Tools feature up the top. So this is a contextual tab. So this ribbon will only come up when I'm physically clicked into an email. You'll note I've got draft. I didn't type anything. So if I click away, it drops off. So it doesn't keep that kind of blank email there. But if I reply and I start to go, you know, hey, and I start to then click away, it will come off and then go, hang on, you've got data in there. I'll keep it as a draft. Now I could look in my drafts, but it will keep it there in the list and it says, hang on, you were starting to type something, do you want to come back to it? And it comes up as that orange draft. Okay, so you can kind of see it and not lose it in the drafts folder, so it's all done in line now. The features and functionalities that come up on the Compose Tools, they're sort of simple in its design. However, if there's a feature that you're not seeing up here, you can just go pop it out. If you decided, oh, I actually really don't need to send an email back in regards to this, I could discard it and say, just get rid of it and delete it, basically. But if I need more features, I would pop that email out. So now I've got all the full features and functionality of an email to be able to work with, unlike the earlier where it's just the Compose message tools, the simplistic tools that we've got up the top there. Now what I see is, when it comes to mail, and understanding, you know, some of the, well, there's lots of things around etiquette. There's also a lot of things around the way that we work in terms of productivity. What do you think is the average amount of times you would read an email when it hits your mailbox? Any ideas? Okay, so you receive an email from someone. What's the average amount of times that you would actually read that email? You just read it once? Promptly, yep. Action it straight away. And that's what you need to do. Because the average is 3 times in terms of people reading an email. So what they'll do is they'll skim their mailbox. They kind of go, what's come in for this morning? Then they'll go back to it, start to do then a more extensive read to sort of go, okay, now what do I want to do with it? And you go, I can do that later today, or I can do it tomorrow. Then they'll come back later today or tomorrow and read it for the 3rd time. Yeah? So it's not uncommon. Often it's up to 5 times. So when we look at... Yeah, that's it, exactly. So if you get 100 emails in the day, you've effectively given yourself 300 emails. So there are different features and functionalities to be able to help you to action something. So I'll just work my way through. I'm just going to discard that for now. So some of the features and functionalities go, I've received text, we're doing a bit of a, and I've got to do some more work on this because we did a bit of a test and train and we moved to and from. And I know that I have to do something tomorrow in regards to this particular email. So the ways to be able to action an email once it comes into my mailbox, drag and drop it to my calendar and it instantly kicks off with all the details in it. And then I can go, I need to set this for tomorrow at 2 o'clock before I meet with him, and that's just an appointment for me. So I'm just putting it on my calendar to remind me. Yeah, it's on the calendar for me. So if I go over now to my calendar, you'll see, here it is, just dropped into my calendar for tomorrow as some more work to do. Another way is, if I decide we need to have a meeting about this, so that was just an appointment, but if I need to do a meeting, you've got a reply with meeting button up the top here, so I go reply with meeting. It will include all the attachments, it will include all the information around the meeting, And then I can go, we need to have a meeting where I said from 2:30 I need to be prepped and ready beforehand. So I'm going to set up some time from 3:30. No, you don't need to copy and paste. It's been there for quite some time to reply with a, yes, it has. But I find it's a really good one to actually show people because a lot of people aren't aware that it's there. So in terms of some of the productivity pieces. So I set it for 3:30. We're going to have just a 30-minute meeting. I'd have a look on the scheduling assistant to make sure that he's free as well. Add in any other extra features and functionalities such as your rooms. You've got a room finder to be able to support you, okay? And then I'd make sure that once I know we're ready, I would then send it off to him. Okay? It is. Right next to your forward button at the top, reply with a meeting. Control-Alt-R is your keyboard shortcut. Good one to get to know. Control-Alt-R to reply with a meeting. Other features are your quick steps. So where you've got actions that are repetitive, for example, maybe you need to forward this to your manager. So I go forward to, and I've already set it up with Kojo as my manager, so it just drops it in automatically for me. So if I want to edit it and I go, who is my manager, I could adjust that and put someone else in if my manager changes. So these are all kind of preset, what do you want to do to set it up? So I haven't set the team email up yet. I can put in who is my team, and then it generates a new email. So it says here, Quick Step opens a new email to the people specified below. Okay, add in, other action items as well if you want. So underneath options, I can go a new email, and I can add in a whole heap of actions. So we'll go back and we'll build some of it. I have different actions for different things. So for example, this one I know is a newsletter. So if I click on it, I'm going to go move in future, everything to the folder. I've got a newsletter folder and I go, yep, save it there. So now whenever I click on anything that says it's Turning Technologies, it'll automatically move it to there for me. Turning Technologies, just go drop it in my newsletter folder, thanks. So it pushes it out to the side for now, so I don't have to worry about it for future. You've got reply and delete done. I can create whole new ones or manage the steps that I've got. So if I go manage the steps, these are some of the standard ones that are in there. And I can edit them, or I can go create new. There are lots of features. Or if I go custom, what's my quick step? You'll see all the action items that you can take. And you can build them on top of each other. So I have ones that are mark it as read, untick any flags, move it into a folder for me, and also drop it into something else. I have ones that have got multiple, anything that I do that's a repetitive action in particular, a grouped repetitive action, I just create it as a quick step. Now down the bottom here, also a keyboard shortcut. So for me, I'll have them where it'll be different projects, for example. It will be move that, the moment I press reply up the top, it says move it to the folder for that particular project, create then the new email that actually then sends off a notification that I need to send through to the team around that project, and it's all automatic and I don't have to worry about it kind of thing. So, and I create a keyboard shortcut for it too. So instead of clicking on the button, I can just use my keyboard and just go Control-Shift-1 and it will just kick off that particular quick step without me having to worry about it. So there's some really awesome quick steps to build. So as we work our way through and we start to understand some of the features, so we've got to drag it to your calendar, we've got to create your quick steps depending on what it is that you're trying to create. We then have the ability also, maybe it's a feature where you need to put it onto a task instead. Okay, so we've got to putting it on the calendar, but we've also got to put it onto a task. So with a drag and drop down the bottom to tasks, I can go put it onto tasks. So now I've got a task and I can set a date tomorrow morning to remind me, for example, reminder tomorrow at 9 a.m. that I need to have a think about this a little bit later. So now on my task list, it's that email with the task with a drag and drop on. Okay? A little different than if I go flag it. Flagging it is different to creating a task. So if I flag it, flagging will only kind of highlight it in the list for you. But unless you put something around the flag for follow-up, it's got today. So if it goes to tomorrow, it will turn it red in your inbox when you hit tomorrow. But it's a good idea. It's quite passive. So always say add a bit of a reminder around it so that it's going to start be a little bit more noisy. So it's not so passive, for example. So our follow-up then goes into it and we can clear and work with flagging. So we've got tasks, we've got flags, we've got calendar, we've got quick steps. Another one would be, so wherever I get something that might come in, I can go, this is a rule that I want to actually set up. And I could just go right click and go always move the messages or create a rule based on this particular email address. So I go create a rule, for example, and it goes anything that comes in from these guys, I want to get an alert because it's important. I need to see these as they actually hit the mailbox. And I go, okay. So anything that comes in from those guys, it's a rule will only run when Outlook is running because it's on player noise. So I'm only going to hear the noise if I've got the mailbox open, for example. But a good one is if it's a newsletter, what happens is we get tons of emails that tend to be very newsletter kind of. So I have a newsletter folder that I create. And as part of a rule, I go always move anything that's newsletter into the newsletter folder. It will run on everything in the mailbox. And in my calendar, I actually set up some time later on in the week, for example, on a Friday afternoon to go read newsletters, like yay. And then at the end of the week, unless it's one that I've got a notification against or it's important, for example, I would then have that newsletters folder and I would go and have a look at them at the end of the week. So if I've got 100 newsletters, for example, at the end of the week, and I've got 1 hour to look at them, I then become a little bit more discerning around what I'm going to read. I pick and choose the information that's going to be relevant to me, and then what I'll do is I'll actually just make sure from then on, I pick and choose something. Because what happens is when a newsletter hits your mailbox, you're more inclined to start reading it, and then you get taken off on different tangents, and you might be reading and going to places that you really shouldn't be when you're trying to focus on something else. So it's always really important to know your rules. I'm going to go manage the rules and alerts. Now, I can have it where it runs automatically, or I can run it when I'm ready to run them, for example. Rules often get turned off by people because they haven't gone enough steps in to make it a relevant rule. Okay? So when you go edit your rule, so if you go, I want to edit that rule, make sure you select the condition correctly. What are the conditions? And come down the bottom, in terms of the conditions. It could be, sometimes the conditions aren't set correctly because it's got to have also a specific word, or it's got to be marked as important so that you can get that reminder notification, for example. Then what's the action? What do you want to do to process it? Now, it's not enough to just tick it. You'll then have to assign it a particular category or classification, for example. Okay, so set it up correctly. I'll untick it. Okay. Then the last one is set exceptions to the rule. And this is where a lot of times people don't go that little bit step further to go, don't move it into that folder when I receive it from my boss, for example. So they kind of go, oh, I need to delete that rule because I'm getting emails going to the folder that shouldn't be in there. It's like, well, go make an exception to the rule. You just need to go that little bit further and then finish it off. Okay. All right, I'm going to go and delete the rules I've been creating for this poor mailbox so that when I leave, it's not going to be as messy. Okay. So another feature to kick ourselves off to make sure that we're organised is, up the top here, you've got ignore conversations. So for example, you weren't going to be here for Melbourne Cup Day, and there is a ton of emails that are actually flying around in regards to Melbourne Cup Day. You don't want to be included as a part of it, so you can just go ignore that whole conversation. So anything that comes in future, it will move it straight to the deleted items by default. If you don't want it to be in the deleted items, you can go into your options, so your file options, and as a part of your mail, when it comes to managing conversation cleanup, which folder, you can just put it into an archive type folder if you wanted to instead of the deleted. By default, it goes to the deleted, but you can actually adjust it around and say you want it to go somewhere else in particular. So it's a good way to clean up conversations and clean up a particular folder. So here I've got a conversation stream. So based on my view, I've gone show as a conversation. So now I can extend it out and I can see my sent items directly in as a part of that conversation thread. So it's threading. And with that thread, I can go clean it up. It will get rid of the this one here, and keep the most recent on the list. So we'll just push out the older one and get rid of it because I've already got it all here, kind of thing. So I've got a conversation cleanup in terms of organising your mailbox. So those are sort of the main ones that kind of get you in, get you organised. If it is going to take you less than 5 minutes, then generally I would recommend you immediately respond to it. If it's going to take you longer and you don't have time for it at the moment, then just go put it on your calendar or set it as a task. Do one action so that you're only reading your mail twice maximum. Okay? Because often we're just reading it way too many times in the long run. Okay. You do have a lot of features in terms of peak. So with our peak, I can start to quickly and easily see what's on my calendar for this week without having to go to my calendar. Same with contacts, I can start to add my favourite contacts. Now, I don't think I've got, let's just see, Kojo. I'm going to right click and add him into my favourites. So from here on in, I can kick off all sorts of stuff like mail and find out details around Kojo directly from my favourites list. Same as with my tasks. So I don't have to physically go to them. I can just use my peek and go, oh, I've done that. Drop by calls, yep, okay, yep, finished all of those. They're all the ones that were due for today, later, nothing else. Awesome. Okay, ready to go. So that can make a real difference to your day by just hovering over peak without having to go to each of those areas. Now, when I create a new email, you'll see a new anything is Control N. But if I'm in my calendar, it's going to be a new calendar invite. If I'm in contacts, it's a new contact card. If I want to do a new email and I'm in my calendar, then it's really important that you start to get to know the more overarching keyboard shortcuts. So if I'm in my calendar and I go Control-Shift-M, that will do a new email no matter where I am on my mailbox. I'm just going to grab a chair and put a foot or two up. Don't have a stool here. Don't go, stand. Okay, so when we start to then have a look at some of the keyboard shortcuts, Control-Shift-M. An appointment is Control-Shift-A. Your meeting is Control-Shift-Q. Because you've already got Control-Shift-A for an appointment, you can't then do a Control-Shift-M for meeting because it's a new email. So it's not as, I suppose, intuitive as what you would like it to be, but if you get to know Control-Shift-Q, it will make a bit of a difference. So there is usually a... I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts.
I used to, I don't use them anymore.
Yeah, it makes your life so much easier. It really is a lot quicker. I find that once you get into it again, it will speed yourself up because we've got so very used to having a keyboard that we've kind of... Yeah. And we've slowed ourselves down exponentially. Also, it's not as ergonomic. Okay? Yeah, yeah. So when we're using our mouse is often we're kind of different and we're doing all sorts of stuff with our hands. So when we're using our keyboard, we're a little bit more ergonomic and using keyboard shortcuts as well. And they are exponentially quicker. So we can customise our quick access toolbar, we can customise our ribbon as we need to. So on the File tab, in my options, I've got customising the ribbon. So you can put the different features and functionalities on customising your ribbons and customising your quick access toolbar to have the quick and easy things that you might actually like up the top. Okay, so that is all customisable. When we're working with things like our search, so I'm trying to search something in particular, it may be, and you'll see the default is only the current folder. Usually when we're searching, we're always searching a lot more around all folders, I find, so I usually turn it to all mail. So that when I come up the top here, by default, it's then looking at all mail as part of my search rather than just the current mailbox. So if I'm searching in particular, now the moment I click into the box up the top for search, you'll see I get my contextual tab now around searching tools. So I've got all folders or all Outlook items. So if I go in here and maybe I go find anything in terms of Kojo, it'll do a search. This is all things for Kojo. Now, at the moment, what it's not doing is it's not doing only the ones from, it's also including the ones from me to him. I don't want those ones. So if I go from, and I put in Kojo, get rid of it here, now it's only the emails from him to me. So I want to filter it down. If you decide you want to change that, you can go to anything I've sent to him. Understanding your Boolean search words and the way to be able to work with it is quite valuable. Yep, yep. So in terms of to, it is here as a field for you to be able to choose from, but it's not as a standard button up the top. If you wanted to, you could put it in there as a button in terms of customizing your ribbon. You just type in to, or type in subject, or type in. All of these are available. So start date, for example. You know, you've got start date, but you could actually type in a date. So understanding from and to in terms of dates and filtering it out becomes important, because all it's really got is this week, yesterday, last week, but you can filter it based on dates if you start to type them in as you get to know it. And that's often where, you know, people go a little pear-shaped, is they're not really looking at some of the different ways that you can actually filter your search functionality. Okay. When it does a search, so if I put in training, for example, it will search and highlight it if it's in the subject and also in the content. From or a subject, yeah, from an individual. A better way to do a from an individual, if you've got an email, so say, let me close that. So say it's Kojo. So with Kojo, you've actually got a people pane. So on your view, you've got a people pane. I've just got it minimized down the bottom. So if I extend that people pane out, I can go show me all the mail with Kojo. Show me all the attachments, show me all the meetings. Same thing again, show me all the mail, any attachments, I haven't done any attachments, no meetings. So that people pane allows me to be able to search based on him without coming up to search up the top. So it will kind of collate it all together for you. And I've just closed it down. So that having that value there can make a difference. When we're then going in now and we're starting to have a look at things like the people card. So if I hover over someone in particular, I can go add them, and they're then going into my Outlook contacts. So I have then that people card sitting in my Outlook contacts for me to be able to work with. Okay. So he's over there, and I can start to add in others as well as I need to in terms of my people card. So that people card, as I hover over it, I can kick off an email directly from here. I can copy and paste email addresses. I've got numbers to be able to work with to be able to help and support me as part of that people card. So that's a bit of a way to be able to work that makes it a little bit easier. When I'm kicking off something like a new email, I'm just going to go Control N for new. Let's bring up a brand new email to have a play with. Now our signatures are all up the top here. We can create new signatures and adjust it as part of it. The new modern attachments goes, what are the recent items that you've actually been working on, and it will auto-populate it with recent items, and then you can browse for other further locations as you need to. But this is sort of the modern attachments look and feel to be able to drop it in. When we're wanting to find a particular function, you can do it through the tell me what to do. So it could be, I want to do, is there anything in here? No, okay, no merging, okay, because it really sits in Word, doesn't actually sit in Excel. Okay, so this is sort of what comes up. We were talking about merging a little earlier in the earlier session, hence why I'm bringing it up. But say I want to do a vote. I want to vote. Use voting buttons. Okay, I can do a voting button. Your voting button is here on your options to be able to vote. But I could just kick it off as a command here and go use voting buttons, create a custom voting button, for example, Approve, reject, yes, sure, okay, close. So when I send that off, it's going to have a voting button against it, and it can be sent out. And I can go, give me a read receipt, a delivery receipt. I'm going to save it after I finished. Once it's sent, I want to save it to a particular folder automatically for me, so I can do it here before I've sent it. I'm going to delay the delivery for it. I'm going to not have it delivered before Monday next week, and I want it actually to hit their mailbox first thing in the morning. So I'm going to delay the delivery until Monday at 9 a.m. And when it replies, I don't want it to reply to me. I want their direct replies to actually go to someone else, because I'm going to be away. So I want all direct replies to go through to Kojo, for example. Let's try that again. Kojo, whilst I'm away on leave. Okay. So now he's in there, close. So when I send it off, I don't have to worry about this anymore. They can vote. All the replies go to Kojo. I better tell Kojo that he's getting a ton of replies come Monday. Okay. So that's that sort of getting ourselves started. When I'm typing in some information, so say I type in Karen, for example, I can do, you'll check names, your keyboard shortcut for that is Control K. Control K goes, okay, I'll filter everything based on Karen. But if I go, I can't remember her first name, it was Forland, Control K, oh, there's only one Forland in the business, it will automatically drop them in. So if it's got an unusual name, if I go Kojo and I go, oh, that was the wrong Kojo, I accidentally pulled the wrong Kojo, and that was the wrong Karen, I can delete out names from the list. So now when I type it in, it's not auto-populating, but I can go Control K and it will just bring them back in again. Particularly good when you copy and paste large lists of people's names from Excel, for example, and then just go Control K and it will find them all for you. On your Insert tab, you can go and bring in your calendar. What I do and see a lot is people will type out, I'm free on Wednesday from 2 to 3 and 4 to 5, Thursday from 9 till 11, and then from, okay. Instead of doing that, just go, I'm going to send my calendar availability. I can specify the dates, but I might just do the next 7 days. Don't show my weekends. And because it's going to my manager, I can give him some of the details. And I go, okay. So now I get an ICS, and it will actually give them all my free busy for them to be able to work with. That, no, it has been around for a little bit. So that is also available in my calendar. I can go email the calendar. So I go email the calendar and you'll see it does the same thing. So I can either come from my mail or I can come from my calendar to do it. Quite a valuable little one to have. Now, sometimes I'll go, I don't want to have an ICS, so I might delete the ICS attachment. Or I go, I don't want it in my email deleted out and just go, please see the ICS attachment of my availability over the next week. And you can send that out to an external party, for example. Okay? So they go and just have a look on your calendar as to what it's going to look like. You may not include details. You might just do free busy rather than showing any data. That will then make a bit of a difference. All right. Sure. So as part of my table, so I can insert a table, but usually it's a little easier to draw a table, for example. So I can go, this is the kind of table that I actually need. Right? So makes a little bit of a difference in terms of my structure. Draw a table. Yes, you can. Okay. No, it's been around for a little bit longer, but very valuable to have. So as part of my tables, I can draw and I can use my eraser and go, I actually don't need a line through there, and erase out what I want to do. With my table, I could get rid of all of the lines, for example, so that there are absolutely no borders, but I just make sure I can see my grid so I can type it in. So I can get a bit of structure to my mail. Maybe I'm doing a newsletter or something like that, and I want this particular banner just to be blue. I'll put the logo in the top, and then I have 3 core spaces that I might do, and it kind of contains it into a nice structure in your mail. Okay. So it certainly has some value. A lot of times I might do something like, let's go 1 Bay Street, Ultimo, for example. So I've got a map and I'm trying to show where they might be able to park in terms of the shopping centre. So I'll go have a look on the map. So I'll just go zoom in a bit. It's a bit fuzzy. Okay, so say, click point. I've gone a little further along. There we go. Bay Street, for example. So say I want to include this in my mail. On the Insert tab, I've got Insert the Screenshot. I'm going to do a screen clipping, and it was the last place that I was at, so that's where it's going to jump to. And I can go, okay, here's a screenshot of where we are, for example, and I'll just drop that in terms of my email to someone else. So there's, it could be something like, I've got an error message. You know, I don't know what this error message is. Get the email, open it up, insert a screenshot, and send it through to the team to go, hang on a second, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. So insert my screenshot. So some of those features and functionalities will make a real difference in terms of being able to get underway and on the go with a new mail. Okay. We do have all our colour categories in terms of the flowing through. Let's go back to my mailbox. So each mail, I can categorise it. Yep, absolutely. So you got all your categories? Yes? Yes, absolutely. So in terms of, so if you go into all your categories, you should be able to go and select them and delete them.
But do they still stay in the drop down?
Shouldn't actually do in terms of the drop down here.
Okay, so I go all categories. I've got like 50 categories. But some, if they're projects that no longer exist,
Yep.
I delete them.
Yep.
And I'll be in a folder.
Yep.
So I'm only really deleting from here, aren't I?
Yeah, so you're deleting them from here.
I still be, let's say they're in my inbox.
Yep.
Category.
So if they're in your inbox as a category, what you can actually do is you can actually do filter. So filter by the category, whatever the category is, and then select, go Control A, select all, and then turn off the category. Yeah. So just do a select all in that folder.
And what's the, if you turn off the category, what's happening?
Okay, so let's have a look. So if I go, I'll just go choose everything in the mailbox, categorise it as blue, for example, so it's now the blue category throughout it. So if I go do a search and go find me everything with the blue category, there it all is. Control A, select all, and then you can go clear it of all categories and go, yep, it's going to reply to everything. It'll drop all those categories off if you want to get rid of them. So you kind of just filter it, get all the categories, remove them. If they're hanging around, and that's the reason why they're coming up in your categories.
Well, if they're coming up in my drop-down box,
Right.
I'll clean up my categories drop-down box.
Yeah, then go into all categories to delete them. Make sure that they're removed from your mailbox as well, because it might have a lot of historical ones from an older mailbox.
But I want them to stay in my inbox.
Right, so then, yeah, you might leave it.
Stay there with the
Yeah.
category,
Yeah.
project A.
Yeah, but you can remove them. Yeah. Yeah, you can actually remove them in terms of some of the functionality there, without a doubt. Yeah. The last couple of things are as part of your calendar. Where you've got multiple people that you might be working with, you can go and insert others' calendars, for example. So I do have, calendars that are in here that I've dropped in. I can go open a calendar from the address book, and I might bring in, Kojo, for example.
Sometimes calendars like different colours. See how they're blue?
Okay, so this is based on your colour is, by default, blue, but you can change it, so that's automatic. So you might go, I want my colour to be, and I want Kojo's to be, okay. So it will just assign a colour for you. They do, because their colour will default to blue, and then it will just move down the list in terms of the people that you open. Now, if I'm going, I want to see our availability based on a particular day. So I'm going to go day, I'm going to choose a couple of different days on the calendar, and I'm trying to work out when we've got a whole day together. So I'm going to overlay it. There's a little arrow here. Or on my view, I've got an overlay button. So now that we're overlaid, I can see the only date that we've got where it's a whole day free is Thursday the 19th. Okay. So I go, I'm going to choose Thursday the 19th from 9 till 5. And as part of this, I go, I want to create a new meeting with all the people. So I might have 10 people, and then it will automatically drop all their names in based on that time, and I know that we were all free. So say I want to include meeting rooms, I can go and include the meeting rooms, for example. I might want to put them all in overlay mode and start to bring this, there's lots there that I've chosen. Okay, so I go, based on the day, here we are, they're all in overlay mode. Let's see, do we have, in terms of some of the availability, it looks like we've got a few rooms that are actually free. So I could go, don't need that one, I just need one of them. Green, it's got a booking. I can use this one in Fremantle, Chancellor's Room is the closest. Now when I do a booking, it will include that room as well. Okay, so just overlay them on top of each other. It's much easier for you to then be able to see rather than having them side by side and holding your control key down. So I can add in and create groups. So I can do a right click and I've got add a calendar through here or create a new calendar group. So I've got a calendar, I've got groups based on rooms. I can create a group based on my team, for example, so or the marketing team or HR team. I can just add then their calendars into that group so I can pre-select that whole group that I then might want to see the work day and then overlay a whole team. Yep. So that really sort of covers off the vast proportion of your Outlook and being able to work. Change your view, keep it in preview mode. That will really, help out if you put it into preview mode, and just give you a bit of a different view. Fairly soon, I believe. I know this one has. Right. Yeah. The very last thing would be new feature is, so if I go 1 Bay Street, Sydney, and it's in as an address, I can then map it. If it's in there correctly, it's in there correct, so 1 Bay Street, Sydney, and I go, okay, let's go map it. It will actually map it for you based on your contact card. So you can have, with all the details, so you can send that contact card to someone else and then they could map it off for you, okay? Right. That gives you a little bit of an idea of how to actually work with Outlook. It is freezing in here, I agree. But there's lots of features and functionalities. Go and have a play around. That kind of gets you started at least. Yeah, brilliant. You're very welcome. I am indeed. Okay, you're welcome. Bye.